Good day, dear students. I am Mrs. Alka Panwar from Government Girls College Ajmer. I welcome you all in the Gyan Doot 2.0 online class program. Today, we are going to study sonnet number 30 by William Shakespeare, and the name of the sonnet is Went to the Sessions of Sweet Silent Thought. William Shakespeare has 154 sonnets to his credit, and his sonnets are dedicated to two persons. The one is the fair youth, another is the dark lady. So, this is the fair youth sonnets by William Shakespeare. When to the sessions of sweet silent thought I summon up remembrance of things past, I sigh the lack of many a things I sought, and with old woes new wail my dear time's waste. So, in this poem, we have a beautiful imagery of a court scene. A session in the court is going on, we have to imagine, and the session is going on in the mind of William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare's mind is the court, and Shakespeare is the judge, and he is calling up the remembrance of things past, who are the convicts. So, went to the sessions of sweet silent thought. He is sitting silently, alone, pondering and thinking over past memories. And in such a mood, he calls over the remembrance of things past. One by one, he remembers all the sad incidents of his life. And when such a session is going on in his mind, he sighs the lack of many a things I sought. It means that he wanted to have a lot of things in his life, but he could not have. There were so many desires. There might have been so many wants and desires, but his life did not fulfill those desires. So there is a vacuum in his mind for those unfulfilled desires. And with old woes, new wail my dear time's waste. Now notice the use of the term old. Woe means sorrow. The sorrows are not new. All the incidents, the events, they belong to the past. But he newly wails afresh for these past sorrows. He says that I wasted my time twice. How did he waste his time twice? Once when he wanted to achieve those things which he could not. So that was an abortive attempt by William Shakespeare. And today, when he is remembering those past sorrows, today also he is wasting his time. So, dear time's waste. Notice the use of the word dear, because time is life. Whenever time is wasted, in other words, we waste our time. So, in the first quatrains, William Shakespeare wants us to know that he is in a very sad and pondering, reflective mood, and he is trying to remember all the sad incidents of his life. Under such a sorrowful mood, he calls up all the old memories and he feels sad about them, because today he is remembering all those unfulfilled desires which give him sorrow. The remembrance of these unfulfilled desires fills his heart with sorrow. And he newly wails, he wails afresh. He weeps for them, he feels sorrowful for them. All these incidents are not new, but he cries over them in a new manner as if they are happening today only. Then can I drown an eye unused to flow, for precious friends hid in death's dateless night, and weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe, and moan the expense of many a vanished sight. So William Shakespeare says that when such a session is going on in my mind, when I am in a sad, thoughtful mood, reflecting over the unfulfilled desires of my life, then at that point of time, I can drown an eye unused to flow. Now notice the binaries drown and flow. My eyes, which are not habitual of crying, they drown themselves. Here, he has used a hyperbole. We all know that nobody can cry so much that will drown his eyes, but in order to emphasize the fact that he cries heavily, that he feels sad over the past memories, he weeps a lot. So he says, then can I drown an eye unused to flow. So here we can refer to a taboo that men don't cry. Now this taboo is breaking in the modern age that even men should cry, even the boys should cry. But he says that unused to flow. Here we have an undertone that men do not cry. But now, under the modern perspective, we say that even men can cry and men should cry because they are also human beings. Even they have the right to express their feelings. So here he says, at that point of time when I am remembering all the unfulfilled past desires of my life, my eyes are filled with tears and he cries heavily. For precious friends hid in death's dateless night. Now, here we can understand that William Shakespeare is writing this sonnet when he has achieved his middle age or old age. So, he is crying for precious friends. He has used this adjective precious because friends are always precious. Now, he says that his precious friends are hid in death's dateless night, as if the game of hide and seek is going on and his friends have hidden themselves in death's dateless night. He cannot find his friends, so he is feeling sad. Now notice this expression, death's dateless night. We have two figures of speech in this expression. One is alliteration, death's dateless, when the consonant D is being repeated, and then death is compared to a night, and it is a dateless night. Now, what do you understand by dateless night? The calendar of night, the calendar of death does not change into morning. The night of death does not convert itself into morning. In other words, death cannot be reverted. So, a game of hide and seek is going on in which Shakespeare is trying to find his friends, but sadly, he is unable to find because they all have hidden themselves in death's dateless night. We all know that all the search operations are successful only during the daylight or under artificial lights. During night, all the search operations come to an halt. In the same way, it is night of his life, and his precious friends are enveloped in the darkness of death. So Shakespeare is unable to find them. So he is feeling sad about his lost friends. So his eyes are overflowing with tears. And weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe. Secondly, he feels sad for the loss of his lady love. He could probably not get the love of his beloved, so he is feeling sad about love's long since cancelled woe. Now, what do you understand by this expression, long since cancelled woe? This woe, this sorrow of lost love is not new. It is old. It has long been since cancelled. But today, because he is in a mood of remembering all the sad and past incidents of his past life, so with his friends, he is also remembering his lady love, whose love he could not achieve. That hope of getting love has long been cancelled, but today it is aching like a fresh wound, as if this incident has happened today only. So Shakespeare is crying, feeling sad about this incident, and mourneth the expense of many a vanished sight. He moans, he cries, he weeps, he feels sad about a lot of incidents, about a lot of vanished sights from his life. One of the most precious vanished sight of all of our lives is our childhood. Childhood is a vanished sight which cannot be reverted. And there are certain other old memories, our old house, our old farmhouse, maybe our village. Now, all these sites get vanished with time, and we miss those sites. So, here also the poet is feeling very sad about those sides of his life which he will never see. So, he misses all these things. Then can I grieve at grievances foregone, and heavily from woe to woe tell over the sad account of bemoaned moan, which I new pay as if not paid before. Then can I grieve means when such a session is going on in his mind and his eyes are overflowing with tears, he is remembering his past friends who have died, when he is remembering his lost love, when he is remembering the vanished sides of his life, then can I grieve at grievances foregone. Now, all these grievances are not new. They are foregone. They have already passed. But he is crying for those past sad incidents in a fresh manner. Then can I grieve. Grieve means then can I feel sad about those past incidents. They are not new. But each and every time he remembers those griefs, he feels sad in a fresh manner as if the incident has happened today itself. And heavily means with a heavy heart, with a very sad heart. From woe to woe tell over. Woe to woe, from one sorrowful incident to another sorrowful incident, sad incident, tell over. He tells the sad story of his life once again. The sad account of four bemoaned moan. Now, here we have a metaphor in which he compares the sad incidents, the collection of sad incidents of his life, to an account. So, he establishes a parallel between the book of his life and a sad account. He says it is like an account. But it is unlike an account also, because whenever in an actual account we pay an amount, the balance is zero. But here the balance never comes to a zero. Each and every time he pays his taxes. Now, what are the taxes? The taxes are the tears flowing from the eyes of the poet. He pays his taxes regularly, but still the balance is never zero. In other words, he wants to say that he feels sad each and every time he remembers the sad incidents of his life. He cries each and every time, but still the sorrows, the sad incidents, they are not deleted from the account of his memory. They are same. The balance is never zero. The balance is always the same. The balance always requires new and fresh taxes. That is why he says, which I knew pay as if not paid before. It is like bonded labor. The bonded laborers the bonded laborers were never free from debt, because the more they used to pay, the more the accounts were filled with new debts. In the same way, William Shakespeare is paying the tax of tears, has been paying the tax of tears from his past life. But still, the taxes are the same. The taxes they never end. So he says, then can I grieve at grievances foregone, and heavily from woe to woe tell over. Now we have to imagine that he is turning the leaves of an account, and he is feeling sad that from each page he can see the balance never comes to a zero. The taxes are very much the same. He has to pay the same taxes over and over again. So we have to imagine that Shakespeare is sitting with a sad account, and he is turning over the pages of that account, and he is trying to pay the taxes each and every time he takes the sad account of his life in his hands, and which I knew pay as if not paid before. He is paying the sum, he is paying the amount in the form of his tears in a fresh manner, and as if he is paying the taxes for the first time. So, what do you gather from these 12 lines of the sonnet? We feel that it is a sad poem. We feel that it is a poem about the sad incidents, the sorrowful incidents of William Shakespeare's life. No. When we read the last couplet, the last two lines of the sonnet, we come to the actual point of the sonnet, which is not telling over the sad account of his life, but which is creating a background for the precious friendship of his friend, the fair youth. The last two line goes, but if the while I think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored and sorrows end. So it is almost like a total change of mood of the poet when he changes his mood from sorrow to consolation, from sadness to happiness. He says, but if the while I think on thee, dear friend, he says that I accept that my life is filled with a lot of sorrowful incidents, with a lot of desires, unfulfilled desires, with a lot of sadness. But the moment I think of your precious friendship, dear friend. Now, who is this dear friend? This dear friend is the fair youth whose identity is unknown. Nobody till date has been successful to know who was this dear friend. Only the name we know of this dear friend is the fair youth who had a very charming personality. So he says, but if the while I think on thee, dear friend. Now he says, only thinking is enough. Only a moment of thinking over my friend is enough. And he says, all losses are restored and sorrows end. All the losses of his life are restored. Now notice the word restored. I told you that this poem makes use of legal diction. So there is a restoration, there is a compensation for the losses, and sorrows end. Beautiful ending of this poem. He says that there are a lot of sad incidents in my life. I accept loss of precious friends, loss of my lady love's love, and so many vanished sights, so many unfulfilled desires of my life. But nature has created a balance. But when I put these two on a balance, the balance weighs equal. So we can understand, we can decipher that how valuable, how precious is the friendship of fair youth to the poet, that he thinks that he ends all his complaints against life, and he thinks that I no more have any complaints towards life because I have got the love and the true friendship of my dear friend, of the fair youth. That is why he emphatically says that all losses are restored and sorrows end. Now, let us have a quick revision of this poem. We read the poem Sonnet number 30, Went to the Sessions of Sweet Silent Thought by William Shakespeare, and it is a sonnet dedicated to the fair youth. So he says, When to the sessions of sweet silent thought I summon up remembrance of things past, I sigh the lack of many a things I sought, and with old woes new wail my dear time's waste. Now in the revision we will also pay attention to the figures of speech. So the alliterations used in this stanza are sessions, sweet, silent. The sound of S and TH has been repeated. So this is a very beautiful example of alliteration. Then once more, alliteration, we can see woes new wail. The sound of V is being repeated in woes, wail and waste. Then we have an example of metaphor when he compares the court session to the session going on in his mind. And notice the use of the word summon. Summon is not an ordinary call. It is a serious call by the court, which you can't disobey. So he says, when such a session is going on in his mind, when he is remembering all the past incidents of his life, he feels sorrowful, he sighs, and he feels the lack of many a things I sought. Because there are a lot of things in our life that we wanted to have, but we could not, but we cannot. Similarly, William Shakespeare feels sad about many things which he wanted to achieve, but those desires were unfulfilled. And with old woes, new wail my dear time's waste. Time is life. So he says, I have wasted my time twice. Once, when I tried to get those things fulfilled which could not. And secondly, whenever I remember those unfulfilled desires, those abortive attempts of my life, I feel sad. In the second stanza or quatrain, there is an hyperbole. He says, then can I drown an eye unused to flow. There is also a social taboo that men don't cry. But in the modern point of view, we say that men also cry and men should cry because they are also human beings. Even they have feelings. So he says men generally do not cry, but under such circumstances, when I am remembering all the past incidents, sad incidents of my life, then can I drown an eye. So drowning an eye is a hyperbole. And he feels sad about precious friends hid in death's dateless night. So here, death's dateless night is a metaphor in which death is being compared to a dateless night, to a dark night. And again, we have an imagery of hide and seek play going on where William Shakespeare is trying to find his friends. But sadly, he can't find them because they have been lost in the darkness of death. And death's darkness and death's night is never converted into a bright morning. In other words, whoever dies never comes to life again. And weeps afresh love's long since cancelled woe. Now he also feels sad about that long since cancelled sorrow of his lady love, the love of his beloved, the unrequited love. and moaneth the expense of many a vanished sight. Now also notice the words expense, which is also a legal diction. Expense of many a vanished sight. There are many precious sights in the lives of all of us, and sometimes we lose these precious sights from our life. Those sights can be our old house, our own childhood, our school life, and many other things. Then can I grieve at grievances foregone, and heavily from woe to woe tell over the sad account of fore be moan, which I knew pay, as if not paid before. Here also there are a lot of words, legal diction. For example, grievances, pay, paid, account. So he says, at such point of time, I feel very, very sorrowful. I feel sad. And I open up the sad account of my life again and again, and I pay the taxes in the form of my tears once again. But there is a sea change in the mood of the poet in the last two lines when he says, "But if the while I think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored and sorrows end." So he says, just when the moment comes when I think of you, dear friend, the fair youth, I feel that all losses of my life have been restored and all the sorrows of my life end. They come to an end. Now look at the background of sorrows which he has created in order to put in limelight the precious friendship of his friend, the fair youth. Now, this is a Shakespearean sonnet with 3 quatrains and 1 couplet. But in a sonnet by Milton, in a Miltonic sonnet, there is a volta, there is a change of mood, which we generally do not find in Shakespearean sonnet. But here we do find a volta. Volta means a change of mood in the poet's mind. So, I hope you have understood this poem very well. Thank you very much.